Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki, Sama Veda Bhaktavinda ki, Gaur Pemanande. All glories to the Son of the Devotee. All glories to the Son of the Devotee. All glories to the Son of the Devotee. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshuro Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Devati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parikara Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsa Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabharusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for this opportunity to be with all of you in this wonderful Sangha in the home of Shri Radha Kunj Vihari. I truly feel home here in more ways than one. So thank you for allowing me to come and be with all of you. So we've been asked to speak about the 8 jewels of devotion, Shishtakshtakam. It's a very beautiful set of prayers. So my goal in the 2 sessions we have today is to compete with the wonderful smells coming from the kitchen. So I have a big task ahead of me. So, but no, in all seriousness, my goal, 2 goals today. One, to enthuse our dedication to the chanting of the holy names. And 2, to enrich our daily recitation of these Shishtakshtakam prayers. I know, just speaking for myself only, when we get into the habit of doing certain things, sometimes, again, I'm only speaking to myself, we become, sort of procedural, and we forget or don't think about the importance of what we are actually chanting. And so today we'll go through the Shikshashtakam prayers in great detail with the goal of enriching our daily recitation of these prayers. And I'm emphasizing daily recitation because there's this beautiful verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is giving this benediction that Prabhu Shikshashtaka Shloka Ye Padeshune Krishna Prema Bhakti Tara Bada Dini Dene. That if anyone recites or hears these 8 verses or instructions by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his ecstatic love and devotion for Krishna increases day by day. How many of us would like our increase day by day? Even week by week we would take, right? So we see from this benediction Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami is given, why Srila Prabhupada emphasized so much the importance of the Shikshashtakam prayers that he established. That wherever you go in the world, in the Mangalarti program, after worshiping Tulsi Maharani, we'll chant these Shikshashtakam prayers. So you can see, why. And I'll present a few other benedictions that await us as we get into this discussion today, which will help us remind us why it's so important. So, just a refresher. I know everybody is aware, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to teach us bhakti. Right? Krishna was lamenting that I told Sarva Dharma Parityaja Mamikam. I told about surrender unto me, but I didn't quite show it, how to do it, how to actually practice it. So feeling an extra mood of compassion, he came to teach us the process of bhakti. He spent his first 24 years in Navadvip Lila, primarily the first 20 years in more of a secluded, with his associates, going through different stages, including his Pandit stage where he was a great scholar, and then really inaugurating the Sankirtana movement in Navadvip after 20 years, where Nityananda comes from Vrindavan to Navadvip. And then we know, of course, at age 24, he took sannyas. And he traveled India for 6 years. And in the last 12 years of his pastimes, he really dove deep into the highest realms of bhakti. He was enjoying the highest ecstatic moods of devotional service, particularly with Saurabh Damodar and Ramandan Rai in Jagannath Puri. And this is covered in the Antya Lila of Chaitanya. And it's considered the ultimate of all achievements in spiritual life. And so we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came and he gave us these Shikshashtakam prayers. And his preaching was chant the holy names, chant the holy names. Now, someone who leaves 8 verses, we don't often celebrate. But we should not forget that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was an extraordinary scholar. Of course, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he demonstrated his scholarship also, right? He defeated great pandits like Keshav Kashmiri in Navadvip. He, transformed Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in Jagannath Puri, who was, basically in the Mayavadi school. Of course, all the sannyasis of Varanasi, he converted into, devotees of the Lord. So he was an erudite scholar, and could understand and compete on Vedanta with anyone. So when he leaves us 8 shlokas, we can understand that these 8 shlokas are not simple or maybe superficial, high level. They actually contain the entire essence of spiritual life in these 8 verses. And a great speaker, which is why unfortunately I'll go on for hours and hours, but a great speaker can speak a lot in very short amount. And it takes acharyas and generations of acharyas to unpack the purports of what has been given. So these 8 verses are extraordinarily powerful and actually alone sufficient for us to complete our complete perfection of spiritual life. Now that may sound like an exaggeration or maybe an embellishment, but I think by the time we get to the end of today, we will all agree that in fact that is the case. So these 8 verses were given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the only verses he left. Everything else he left was through his actions, through his activities. Of course, he instructed primarily Rupa and Sanatana Goswami to write profusely about the practice of devotional service, but himself, he left us these 8 verses. And they were not composed together. They were 8 verses that he composed at different times. And Rupa Goswami noted these verses in the book of his prayers called Paryavali. And now Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, after compiling all the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he ends Chaitanya Charitamrita. The final chapter is the presentation of the Shikshashtakam prayers. So we'll read a few verses today as we go through it. That verse we just quoted or read was also from this final chapter of Antya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that's just a little bit of background. And I'm sorry, I missed a few of these. So, and the verses now, they're going to take us in a journey from the very beginning stages of our spiritual life to the ultimate perfection of Krishna prema. So we're going to start from the very beginning and end at the highest achievement the living entity can achieve, and that is unconditional love for the Supreme Lord. So that is a journey in just 8 verses we will go on. And we'll follow the commentary on the Shishtashtaka prayers from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He wrote this Samvedana Bhashyan. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur has written some additional purports on Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary on Shishtashtaka prayers. And of course, we have lots of commentaries from Srila Prabhupada. So that'll be the main sources of what we will discuss from today. And so my goal is today is to get through in the first session, the first 3 verses. So that is our target. So I'm keeping an eye on the clock. Gopal Chandra Prabhu has a stick for me to make sure I don't go too long. And then we'll cover the final 5 verses in the afternoon session with a little bit of a wrap up. So a quick just summary of terminology so that as we understand, because we're going to show and discuss the flow of the Shishtashtaka prayers. Rupa Goswami explains in Nectar of Devotion that there are 3 stages that we progress through in devotional service. And this is all within the realm of pure devotional service, which we'll talk a little bit as we get through the verses. But we have the sadhana bhakti stage, which is the preliminary stage, in which we practice the regulative principles of devotional service. And the goal of sadhana bhakti, the goal of practice, is to awaken our spontaneous love of Krishna. And so this spontaneous mood, this devotional service and ecstasy, is this bhava bhakti, which takes us to prema bhakti. Prema bhakti is pure unconditional love. And so just like anything, in order to achieve perfection, we have to start at the ground level, right? A dancer who wants to dance beautifully, Kirti's here so she can explain how many years of practice it takes. A teacher saying, do this, do this, do this, do this. He said, I didn't come here just to do this. I came here to dance. But we know through the practice, through the regulative practice, the spontaneity emerges. And so the sadhana bhakti establishes as the core foundation of our practice. And so we'll talk about how these verses take us through these 3 stages. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also in his teachings, he summarized everything into this sambandha jnana, videya jnana, and prayojan. That the sambandha is the establishment of our relationship with Krishna. To know that our relationship with the Supreme Lord, and of course Radha Madan Mohan in Vrindavan is our deity of this sambandha jnana, this relationship. And then when we know our relationship, we live in that relationship, we act in that relationship, we perform activities responsive to that relationship, and that is our avideya. And that is Radha Govindaji, who teaches us and connects us into our experience of that relationship. And so when we act in that relationship, then the result, the fruit emerges. And that is our prayojan. That is the Krishna Prema. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kind of established his teachings into these 3 buckets. And of course, his verses follow also this dynamic. And we also have this, the 9 steps from our initial faith to Krishna Prema. And so the verses also follow this sequence. So we'll kind of summarize. And so I put a little schematic together. So these are the 7 verses of Shishtastakam. The first verse glorifying the 7 perfections of the holy names. Then we have our great misfortune of not having attraction to the holy names. Then in the 3rd verse, the 4 qualities that are adorned, one who can chant very nicely. And then we're reminded of what is our detriment in our spiritual progress, this material attachments. Then in the 5th verse, our position as eternal servant and our begging for mercy from the Lord. And then from there we go into the higher levels of bhakti, this bhava bhakti. When are my tears are going to flow from my eyes, and when will my voice choke up? When will the hairs on my head? I don't have hairs, but you all have hairs. So stand on head. These ecstatic symptoms. When that will happen? Tears. A moment is going to feel like 12 years or more. We see in the 7th verse, and of course in the 8th, this most perfectional presentation of unconditional love. Anyway. So this is the summary of the verses. And so the first 5 verses cover sadhana bhakti. Up to that 5th verse where it says, we say that I am the eternal servitor. And so this brings us to sadhana bhakti. 6 and 7 bring us into the level of bhava bhakti, where we start to experience the spontaneity, the ecstasy of devotional service. And then 7 and 8, because 7 kind of covers both, covers our prema bhakti. And the final verse is the epitome of prema bhakti, this unconditional love. So we'll talk about that. And also we see in the relations that the first 5 verses establish our sambandha, our relationship with the Lord. What is that connectivity we have with the Lord? And then we get the end result. By living and practicing in that relationship, the result is these highest ecstatic symptoms of love. And all 8 verses cover the avideya, the actual practice of this. So this is the structure of the Shikshashtakam prayers and how they flow from the very beginning until the ultimate of perfection, that which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach this Krishna prema. So this is what we will cover now. So this is, of course, the first verse. So we'll just chant together. If you all are okay with that, we'll just recite just in the interest of time, and then we'll go to Cheto darpana marjanam bhavamahadavagnirnivapanam Shreyaya kairava chandrika vikaranam vidyavadu jivanam Anandambudivardhanam Pratiparam Purnam Swaganam Sarvatma Snaparam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So all of us know this verse. How many of us know the translation, the English? Right. So my hope is that, because in Toronto Temple, they recite it after 1 verse every day after reciting Shikshashtakam, the translation. Because the verses are beautiful, but the more important to understand the purport, the content. So it's glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is a prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar, for which we are always anxious. So let us take this and understand. So we hear that chanting of the Mahamantra is the most important, most powerful process. It's the only thing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talked about. Right? It's the best process. So why? Why is it so much emphasized chanting? And I know, many of us, as our journey, we say, okay, I keep hearing chanting, but what else is there? What else is there? What else is there? When we hear these 7 perfections of chanting the holy name, the 7 powerful effects that are given in the very first verse, I think this question will become answered. And we'll understand why this Sankirtan is called, this Param Vijayate, the conquering of the material world, because the chanting is so powerful and so effective that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the very first verse establishes these 7 powerful effects so that we can have some faith in what it does for us and thus give us the conviction that this is the primary means of devotional service for us. So this Cheto Darpana Marjanam, this chanting of the holy name, it cleanses the heart. The heart is compared to this mirror, this darpana. And the start of all of our problems is our inability to understand who we are, right? We get that from the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna gets right to the point and says, you are spirit soul, and hits us over and over again with it. Why? Why does he have to the first 20 verses that he speaks are all on the spirit soul? Why? Because this understanding, while in theory we get in the first or second time we come to the temple, the realization is very difficult for us. right? And we know when I don't know who I am, I make decisions that are not good for me. I might make decisions that are good for my body, but I don't make good decisions that are good for my soul. Very principle 101 level, right? So this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uses this analogy of the mirror very poetically and very beautifully. Because we know if we have a mirror and there is 1 inch of dust covering the mirror, can you see yourself? Oh, I can't see myself. The reflective capacity of the mirror is intact, but there is something covering the mirror. And so I cannot see who I am. So similarly, he's saying our heart is like that. It is covered with dust. And in order to see, to feel every moment that I am spirit soul connected to Krishna, I have to remove this dust. I hear it. I understand it intellectually, but I don't live it. It is because of this dust accumulated on the heart. So the question becomes, for millions of lifetimes, so much dust is there, so much interaction with the modes of nature and contamination. So what are we going to do? What is the cleansing agent? Are we going to get some Windex and wipe on the heart? What are we going to do to cleanse the mirror of the heart? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, just chant. By the chanting of the holy names, you can undo millions and millions and millions of lifetimes of dust that you have accumulated. This is not some semi-strong cleaning agent. This is the ultimate. Even it is explained that if you with sincerity chant the holy names even just once without offense, purely, that is sufficient to completely eradicate all the contaminations of the heart. And we have proof of this. Who experienced this in Srimad Bhagavatam? Ajahn, right? 6th canto, 2nd chapter, I think 7th verse. The Vishnudatta say, hey, he chanted Narayan without any motive, anything in desire. And he said, no, he was calling his son. No matter. He chanted the names of the Lord just once, and he was completely saved. So this is the powerful effect. So the cleansing effect is so potent. That's why sometimes we'll come to the 10 offenses, but we see the 5th offense of the chanting of the holy names is what? To consider the glories of chanting to be imagination. Right? We don't understand the potency, because out of its simplicity, we sometimes appreciate its power. But the chanting of the holy names is so powerful that millions of lifetimes of contamination can be removed. So this is the first benedict, perfection. Then Baba Mahadava Nirnivapanam, chanting of the holy name, it extinguishes the fire of material life. So this material nature is compared to being in the middle of a forest fire. How will it feel to be in the middle of a forest fire? Maybe here in this area in the summer, right? Standing outside in the sun, it feels almost like a forest fire. Yes. But we know that it is not a very good position. And if we were truly stuck in the middle of a forest fire, what would be our greatest desire? To get out, to escape this fire, right? But we know when there is a forest fire, does a simple hose from your house put out the forest fire? Now we see forest fires raging more and more, right? The irony of our forest fires in America are that they happen nearest the largest bodies of water on this planet. But we know that it is so difficult to extinguish these fires, and that great devastation takes place. So again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's uses of words are so poetic and also prophetic that we are in this forest fire of conditional life, just suffering day after day, month after month, year after year. So what hope do we have? The only hope we have is the chanting of the holy names, because it is like a massive rain of mercy to put out this troublesome fire of our conditional life. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that this chanting, it is which will extinguish all the things that we find troublesome. Only through the chanting of the holy name. It's not going to be through more wealth, more fame, more beauty, more strength, more intelligence. It's going to be through this rain of mercy coming from the holy names. So this is the second power of chanting the holy names. Shraya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Chanting the holy names, it's a prime benediction because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. So what is the prime benediction for humanity? We all come to the Lord and pray. And what do we pray for? I don't know. We may pray for $1 million. Give me my visa stamp. I need a promotion. I need this. I need my child to listen to me. Whatever it is, we pray. Right? But what is the best, the prime benediction that the Lord can bestow to us? It is awakening our Krishna prema, awakening our love for the Lord. Because once we have obtained love of Godhead, everything else becomes immaterial. Everything that we are wanting becomes satisfied by awakening our dormant love of the Lord. There's nothing higher that one can achieve. And so this is the prime benediction. And it's universal. It is not a matter of taste. It is one that we are universally drawn to, because that is the nature of the soul, is to be in this loving relationship with the Lord. And so this chanting of holy names, it is what awakens us. And why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uses the word the cooling rays of the moon. Right? Very purposeful in his word choices here. So we know that the moon rays is what blossoms the white lotuses at night. And so similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, by chanting of the holy names, our wilted petals of our contaminated heart, what is going to make it blossom into full Krishna prema? It is the chanting of the holy names. These holy names are the soothing rays of the moon that will actually bring about this purposeful experience in this world. So yes, it will extinguish the fire of conditional life, but what is going to give us the actual nourishment of life? It is this chanting of the holy names. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur comments that even when the fire is extinguished, even when the mirror of the heart is cleansed, one continues to chant the holy names of the Lord. This chanting is actually the soul's eternal process. It is our eternal sadharma. It's so sweet and cooling. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Okay, the fourth benediction, if we need more conviction in the power of the holy names. Vidyavadu Jivanam. Chanting a holy name is the life, meaning the conclusion of all transcendental knowledge. When we say it's the life of all transcendental knowledge, what we mean is it is the essence, the conclusion of all Vedic knowledge. So the conclusion of all Vedic knowledge is to chant the holy names of the Lord and surrender to the Supreme Lord. Right? What is the concluding instruction that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita? Sarvadharma parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Only surrender unto me. This is the conclusion of all Vedic knowledge. And so, how to acquire that, how to achieve that, is through the chanting of the holy name. Right? Wisdom, knowledge takes us to understand God. When we understand God in our relationship, our sambandha, what do? We serve. And the prime means to serve the Supreme Lord is through the chanting of the holy names. Rupa Goswami gives in Nectar of Devotion, describing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, 64 angas of devotional service. But the center, the hub of our bhakti bhakti is chanting. Everything else we do in spiritual life should be there to enthuse our chanting. We study Srimad Bhagavatam. Why? To gain faith in the holy names. We dress the deities. Why? To gain faith in chanting the holy names. We cook for the Lord. We sing for the Lord. We go out and distribute everything we do in devotional service. It should be fueling, funneling in to build our faith in chanting of the holy names. And that is why it is called Vidya Vadu Jivanam. It is the life of all knowledge. The essence of everything that we acquire is to enhance our chanting of the holy names. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in essence, gave us only this process. So we can look at ourselves and see, in performing all of my services, am I fueling my intensity in chanting? If not, we have to redirect our efforts. Number 5, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. Chanting of the holy names releases in the heart an ever-increasing ocean of bliss. Ocean of bliss, right? So it's not just a little bit of happiness. In the material world, Rupa Goswami again tells us that if you take all the happiness of the material world and bring it together, it would amount to the amount of water that accumulates in the hoof print, not of a cow, but of a calf. How much water do we get in the hoof print of a calf? A few drops. And what is the bhakti rasa? The sweetness from bhakti? It is an ocean. An ocean. But we see in the material world, we work so hard just to get a few glimpses of happiness. Right? See how our life is structured. We have to work 5 days a week to try to enjoy 2 days in the weekend. And even that, weekends are filled with, I have to do this, I have to do that, get caught up for the week, prepare for the week. So in this weekend, I am finishing off the prior and preparing for, where is this? This is material life. So much energy. But actual, real life is an ocean of bliss. Ocean of bliss, right? And we struggle so hard, right? We have a great story of Bilva Mangala Thakur, how much he endured just to try to enjoy a few fleeting moments. But then the realization hit him. He was most fortunate because he was slapped with reality. So we are praying also that we'll be slapped with reality, right? Just ask Ravan, we just celebrated Dashera, right? How much he lost. He was losing his family members, his kingdom, and he could have instantly stopped it all just by giving up one personality. Even that personality was not with him. She's in the garden refusing him. He had many queens in his palaces, but not satisfied. So this is the search we are after. But the chanting of the holy names, it releases real happiness. And in an amount that we cannot comprehend, right? We cannot even understand the vastness of the ocean until if we lose a ship in the ocean, right? The whole world is searching. Then we come to appreciate how big the ocean is. And this is a material ocean. The ocean of bliss from chanting. It is an unlimited ocean. And this has a very important meaning for us. When I said earlier, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that we'll be chanting through eternity. One question might arise, what if I get bored of chanting? Actually, this chanting is so sweet. You can never get to the end of its sweetness. Every day, for the rest of your existence, which is eternal, the chanting will get sweeter and sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. That may not be happening for us. And if it is not, I know it's not happening for me. And I have to think, what am I doing in the execution of chanting? But this is the actual principle of the holy names. It is an unending level of bliss. Pratipadam Punam Swadanam. Chanting the holy names allows us step by step to fully taste that nectar. So not only are we thrown into this ocean of bliss, we can actually relish it. Well, we know that our initial practice, material life is very sweet. Spiritual life tastes bitter. And Rupa Goswami tells us this is because we are in the jaundiced condition. Right? When you're jaundiced, whatever is bitter tastes sweet, and whatever is sweet tastes bitter. So to come out of this jaundiced condition, we have to keep chanting the holy names. And step by step, we will be able to relish the real taste of this holy names. And finally, Sarvatma Snapanam. This chanting of the holy name, it cleanses us of all the contamination. Specifically here, the contamination, even the desire for happiness. Because as we know in devotional service, that the pure devotional service is pure when it is free from all desires. Anyabilashita shunyam. It means all desires gone. Then it is pure devotional service. So how to achieve that? This is the seventh effect from chanting. So what is left? Is there anything else? Any other benediction we could want from the Lord? Cleansing of the heart, extinguishing the fire of conditional life, awakening the real knowledge of love of God, enabling us to taste this nectar, this ocean filled of sweetness. This is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us the holy names, because it contains everything. So these 7 benefits are so powerful. That is why it is supremely victorious over the material world. So this brings us now to our second verse, which we'll chant together here. Nam namakari bahuda nija sarva shaktis tatapita niyamita smarena kala etadasita vikripa bhagavan mamapi durvaiva nidrisam mahachanaragaha. O my Lord, your holy names alone can render all benedictions to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all of your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, being able to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying the Sankirtan, the movement is a prime benediction. It's the only means. These names are adorned with 7 super excellent attributes. But what's the problem? No attraction. No attraction. That is misfortune. So let us break this verse down into its parts. So Nam Akari Bahuda. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling us that, my Lord, you have given so many names. Unlimited names. Why Krishna has unlimited names? Because he has unlimited pastimes, unlimited qualities. And all of these names, right? Krishna, Govinda, Rishikesha, Gopal, they all reflect his various qualities and pastimes. And so he has unlimited names, but no attraction. He has Nitya Sarva Shaktis. We'll spend a few minutes on this point. So we say, okay, you've invested all of your transcendental energies in your names. What does that actually mean? So what makes Krishna Krishna is his potency, right? The ability to do anything, things far beyond what we can do, right? Why we are not the Lord? Because we cannot do anything. We cannot even control the growth of the nail in our hair. But I am the supreme controller. I am the boss. We cannot control anything. But Krishna is Ishvara Parama. He is the supreme controller. So his potency is what makes Krishna, right? Halloween is coming up. So we have, somebody dressed up as Krishna. Is he Krishna? No, because there's no potency. What makes Krishna Krishna is his potency. So now just basic logic, if he has said Nitya Sarva Shakti, all of his Shakti, all of his energy is put into his holy names. That means the holy names are Krishna. There's no difference. So if you want to embrace Krishna, how many of us would like to embrace Krishna? Chant Krishna.
Krishna.
You have embraced Krishna because he is potent into his names. This is the difference. So when we say chanting Krishna, we know he is dancing on our tongue. But why I don't see? That is because the marjanam needs to take place. The heart is not cleansed. To see, my glasses are all cloudy. If someone is looking at a beautiful landscape, I don't see. It's there, but I don't see it. So when I say we hear Krishna's dancing on our tongue, he is dancing on our tongue. But we are not seeing it because of the impurities in the heart. So how are we going to remove it? Chanting. Through really good chanting. We'll see this thing. See, because material names don't have this potency. If I chant water, 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 will my thirst be quenched? No, because the word water doesn't have the potency of quenching thirst. But when we chant Krishna, 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 all of his potencies are within the name. And this is what makes the chanting so powerful. This is very scientifically based, logically based. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is reminding us that all your energy is in the holy names. Then he goes on to say that niyamata smarnena kala. There's no hard and fast rules for chanting. If you want to serve the deities, you have to be, Brahmin initiated, you have to take bath, you have to put certain clothes on, you have to chant certain mantras, do purificatory thing. So many rules and regulations are there. But to chant the holy names of the Lord, just chant. Just chant. Right? When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was once chanting in the toilet, right? He was biting his finger and he was trying to stop chanting. And who instructed him? You remember? Gopal Guru. 5-year-old boy said, hey, anytime, any place, anywhere, you can chant the holy names of the Lord. So how merciful the Lord is, that he's put all of his energies into his names. He's given us hundreds and millions of names, and he has not put strict restrictions on them. How great is that? Then we go on. The mercy. How great your mercy is. We're so unqualified, but you've made this special arrangement. How much education does it take to memorize the Maha Mantra? We all can memorize Maha Mantra? We all can memorize 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita? No. But knowing Maha Mantra, Krishna has made it so easy. Even the syllables are all 2-syllable words. No 3-syllable words. So anyone can pronounce. Anyone can enunciate. So much mercy. But Dur Daivam Idasha Mahajani Na Anuraga. What is my misfortune? I'm so unfortunate. We define so many misfortunes to the Lord. Oh, my Lord, I don't have this, I don't have that. And our list is so long. And anywhere on that list, have we ever said, my Lord, I'm so unfortunate, I have no attraction for your holy names? Does that show up on our list? Does that show up on our request list when we put the $5 in the hundi? But actually, this is our only misfortune. We have no other misfortune. None. Zero. Because whatever we deem to be a misfortune, if we had attraction to the holy names and sincerely took to the chanting of the holy names, these 7 powerful effects we talked about in the first verse, everything would be resolved and solved. So our only real misfortune, Durdeva, is this chanting of the holy names. No attraction. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments
that the reason there's no attraction, what is getting in the way, right? So I know this is my only misfortune. So the next thing I need to know, well, why do I have no attraction? There's one reason. 10 offenses in chanting of the holy name. We must work to become free of these 10 offenses. He actually says this word durdevam is synonymous with nama aparad. Our attraction is tied to avoidance of the nama aparad. So Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur says that if you're chanting for a long time and no attraction, carefully see where are we committing nama aparad and avoid them. So I thought it would be appropriate that we at least list out the 10 offenses to the holy names. Right? If we go through these, we see how powerful they are. And again, how much emphasis we see. Srila Prabhupada has us do what every morning? Chant the 10 offenses. But we cannot chant them just ritualistically, going through the motions. It's getting through them as fast as I can. My wife always yells at me every Mangalarti because I try to recite them too fast. Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur says we should recognize and isolate the offenses that are afflicting us and conscientiously, uses the word, avoid them. So we should be very analytical about where are these offenses affecting me. Because without removing the offenses, this attraction will not come. And then he says, chant continuously. Keep chanting, keep chanting, keep chanting. This is what will keep Nama Aparad at the bay. So Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada guided us. When we know initiation lecture, every initiation lecture, what is the topic? 10 offenses chanting. This Srila Prabhupada started. So this is our opportunity to connect the 10 offenses to our attraction to the holy names. Understand that this is where we have to look deep to figure out how to overcome them. Okay? So now, third verse. Tunadapi sunichena todapi shahishna amanina manadena kirtanya sadahari. 1. Should chant the holy names of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lowered and distraught in the street. One should be more tolerant in retreat, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy names of the Lord constantly. So this is the third verse. It's our last verse before we take a short break. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that when you chant the holy names without offenses, 4 beautiful qualities will be bestowed upon you. So the 4 qualities that adorn one who chants offenselessly are these 4 qualities. And Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur tells us that this verse was spoken for the sole purpose, for the exclusive purpose of inspiring us to avoid nama aparad, to avoid the shadow chanting he calls namapas, and to bring us to the pure chanting of the holy names. So the point is that removing the offenses in chanting, it'll bring out these 4 very, very beautiful qualities. So let's go through each of them in detail. Dunadapi sunichena. So we know that it will become more humble than a blade of grass. So we see this emphasis in all of our spiritual teachings on the importance of humility. It is critical in our spiritual journey. Actually, studying Chaitanya Charitamrita, one of the most amazing things we can gain from Chaitanya Charitamrita is observing the activities of the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and how they respond and react to so many different circumstances. And the common theme you'll see throughout all of them is this extraordinary humility. It is a perfect exhibition of what humility is. So this humility is so important to us. And who is most humble? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. He who is asking us to be humble. First, he himself is the most humble. How? Think. In the most public of forum, this battle of Kurukshetra, he took the position of driver. Is that a very illustrious position in society? No. Why? Because of his love for his. He could have engaged anybody to drive. He could have driven it with a remote control. He doesn't need to sit there and physically hold the reins. And how Arjun was telling him to go left or right on the battlefield? With his feet, because he could not hear left or right. So with his feet, Krishna is receiving that. How many of us, the temple president comes and says, go this way, and we use the foot to go. Will be happy? No. Of course, our temple president is too sweet. But my point is, Krishna is so humble that he's taking that. Bhishma Dev, right? Bhishma Dev, very sweet. We're coming in Kartik month, so we get to study this 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. But he tried to break Krishna's reputation by making him lie and pick up a weapon. What did Krishna do? He could have easily discarded these weapons that Bhishma Dev was throwing at Arjuna. But no. To glorify the words of his devotee, to uphold the words of Bhishma Dev, he gave up his own reputation and his own honor. So when we talk about humility, we should understand first that the Supreme Lord himself is the most humble. And so our humility is going to come from his blessings. So how humble is a blade of grass? A blade of grass is standing tall. When you walk on it, it falls over. It cushions our step. And when we leave, what does it do again? Stand back up, waiting for the next time. And a Vaishnava is even more humble. So when somebody, quote unquote, steps on us, gives us a hard time, maybe isn't so cooperative with us, what is our response? Do we fight back? Do we reciprocate? Or do we accept and we'll come to tolerate it here in a minute and be ready for the next time of service? Or do we quit and give everything up? I'm done. So the devotee is extremely humble. And what is the meaning of humility? We get this question a lot. What does it mean to be humble? Humble does not mean to have low self-esteem. I am useless. I cannot do anything. I am this. That is not humble. In fact, if we do that, we are discrediting our position as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. If we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, we must have some nice capabilities. So what humility means is to have an accurate understanding of who we are. That we are infinitesimally tiny sparks of something spectacular. That something being the Supreme Lord. And we are 1000% fully dependent on the mercy of the Lord. That is humility. So whatever greatness we may have in doing, one doesn't think, I am doing. They know who is doing? Krishna. Because I am 1000% dependent on Krishna. Just like that spark in a fire, its light and heat, it is present only when it is in the fire. As it goes away from the fire, what happens to that spark and heat? Separated from the fire, it has nothing. Similarly, the jiva knows whatever I can do, I can do only because of the Lord. So humility doesn't mean to have low self-esteem. It means to know where our potency is coming from and to know that dependence on Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada says that when we are convinced beyond any doubt that nothing in this world, absolutely nothing, happens without the mercy of Krishna, then we can consider it to be humble. Not even a single breath, a single grain of rice, a single moment on this planet we can live without the mercy of the Lord. So that is the humility. And how to, I want to spend a few minutes on this, how to know where we are in humility, right? We need some markers. You know, our Apple Watch doesn't tell us, what's my humility meter. If it had a humble meter, we could press it and get something. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist. So what is our marker? What is our meter? So there are many, but I picked a few things. These might be a little hard. But what is our eagerness to be corrected? Often when we are corrected, there's pain in the heart. What is that pain? That is our false ego. When you're driving down the road and it's late at night and you're falling sleepy, and all of a sudden you hear these grooves. What is that meant to do? Wake you up and keep you out of the ditch. Do you like hearing those grooves? But are you happy they're there? Because without them, where would you end up? In the ditch. So when someone is correcting us, we should not think, oh, this is junior devotee, this is that, this is that. That's all irrelevant. They are trying to help us from entering into the ditch. So why am I responding with such negativity? So that why, if I am responding that way, is lack of humility. This eagerness to follow. Our lack of eagerness to follow led us to the material world. Everybody else was enjoying full bliss. But we said, why you, why not me? So what is my eagerness to follow? That is a measure. Am I extremely eager or willing to do? What is that? A third measure of humility is gratitude. A humble person is naturally gracious. They're full of gratitude. Why? Because they expect nothing. So when something comes, they're, oh, thank you. They have no expectation. They don't consider themselves worthy of any. So when something comes in. So you'll see this. Humble people, they're very naturally gracious. So gratitude is another marker. We can go on, whole seminar can go on just this. I just wanted to pick at least a few markers we might see in our own selves of am I making progress in my humility? Right? So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives us one nice also marker that we can take. That one's humility cannot be doubted or challenged as long as they are strictly adhering to the instructions of Guru. But there's a catch. They're ready for the catch? All of the instructions of Guru. We cannot pick and choose. I like this, but this one we'll put on the side, put in the pocket. No. All instructions of Guru. And Srila Prabhupada is no greater example of humility by this measure. By all measures, but this measure in particular. Because he was fully surrendered to the order of his spiritual master. Though he accomplished things unimaginable, nobody who has walked this planet has achieved. He always knew this was all the doings of my spiritual master. He didn't just speak it. He knew it. That was in the inner chamber of his heart. Right? So when one chants without offenses, this is the quality that arises. So if we are left here wondering, wow, how I will come to this point of being humble. How am I going to become more humble? How are we going to become more humble? Chanting the holy names without offenses. That's the only way. Hearing more classes, hearing more seminars, all going to help remind us. But we have to do. And the doing is really good chanting of the holy names. Okay. Torodapi Shahismina. More tolerant than a tree. Oh. How tolerant is a tree? If you yell at the tree, will it still give you a mango? If you kick the tree, will it give you a mango? If you say, hey tree, I'm going to cut you down, burn you, will it give you heat? That's tolerance. Now we have to be more tolerant than that? Oh, Krishna. Devotee comes and kicks me and I have to say, please give me another? Is that the purport here? No. But what it means is that a devotee is extremely surrendered to the plan of Krishna. If we think what tolerance means, it means just that. Surrendered to the plan of Krishna. Krishna is my eternal loving Father. He will never put me in a circumstance that is not best for me. So whatever circumstance I'm facing, I will tolerate. Meaning specifically the difficulties. We don't tolerate having 6 rasgullas in our plate. That we enjoy. But when the difficulties come, we know I am surrendered to Krishna's plan. This is what fuels our tolerance. I am fully there. Now Queen Kunti takes it a whole new level, right? She doesn't just tolerate. She says, hey, bring them on. Calamity after calamity, bring them on. Shower me with... we're not at that level. You all are there, but... So we don't go that far. We cannot yet. But the point is that tolerance is born out of our surrender to Krishna's plan. And this tolerance leads us to have extreme compassion for all living entities. When a devotee comes and is giving me a hard time and is criticizing me and this and that, the devotee just tolerates and says, this is just due to maybe their anarthas, maybe something I am doing, but does not respond, does not react. When the dog barks, we don't bark back. That's what my father used to always tell me. So the tolerant devotee, they understand everything that's happening is by the arrangement of Krishna and for my own good. Maybe Krishna is bringing this person into my life who is giving me a hard time. Why? To teach me tolerance, to help me build tolerance. Thank you, my Lord, because without it, I would be full of pride, thinking everything is so... No, thank you for bringing these persons into my life. They are for my benefit. That is what the devotee with tolerance, how they feel when these persons, interaction happens. Well, there are many different ways to look at it. And they pray, don't, my Lord, take this person away. They pray, please purify them and me. Meaning a devotee has compassion for all. And ultimately, a devotee doesn't even hear this. So just like, if you have a 2-month-old baby and 2 people are here, within earshot, they're talking bad about the baby. Maybe he does any response? They don't care. They're in their own world. Like this, a devotee, they don't hear anything. Someone's criticizing them, they don't hear any of that. That's their consciousness is only on serving Krishna. So all these things, they don't matter. They don't become disturbed. And they don't look Does baby give you a bad look? Devotee doesn't even become not only neutral, he showers love and saying, why they are spending time talking about a useless person like me, better they have spent time talking about Krishna. Krishna, please give them rather attraction to the holy names. So this is the tolerance of a devotee. Very wonderful quality. And when one chants without offenses, one can reach this very high stage. But we can start to apply it in our day-to-day practice. Amanina and manadena. We kind of do these ones together. We get so much emotion out of the desire to obtain respect. Right? We want this recognition. Right? And what happens when we don't get the recognition we wanted? Anger. You get upset. Right? If you see it, most anger happens out of this. When two people are fighting, it is an unmet need of recognition. So what happens if I have no need for recognition? I'll never be angry. Matters by definition. If my expectation is here, anything above that, hey, I'm good. I'm in the green. I'm positive. I'm safe. Right? But if I have expectation of this, if this comes, World War III. So this is a So no desire for respect. Srila Prabhupada comments in Bhagavad Gita that humility, he says, one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. That, oh, yes. We say, oh, no, but internally say, oh, yes, keep going. That's the cooling rays soothing the heart. That is not the cooling rays we want. Rupa Goswami tells us, only our enemies will glorify us. Because that is what leads to our fall. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes a beautiful comment that who, in spite of having every reason to be proud and to be respected, demonstrate this humility and tolerance, they are the pure heart and a candidate to chant purely. It's a very beautiful quality. Imagine how sweet the world would be if everybody had amanina. There'd be no conflict, virtually. Manadena, offering respects to everybody, not just to our friends and family members and loved ones, but to all living entities. Seeing that everyone is Krishna's dear child. Even that rascal down the street, yes. Every living entity. Yes, maybe they have some anarthas that are different than ours, but at the end of the day, they are pure spirit soul connected to Krishna. So that means one doesn't give harm to anyone. And when we talk about ahimsa, what does ahimsa mean? Non-violence. But do you know how we commit the most violence? Not with our hands, with our tongue. If I slap somebody, that might sting for a little bit. But if I say something hurtful, that sting might take years to dissipate. So we should be very thoughtful and careful with how we speak with others. This is respect, that not just that, we show respect externally, but then we speak things that are hurtful. Be very, very, careful. So these qualities, this is the result of chanting without offenses. So humble, tolerant, offering respects everywhere, and expecting none in return. Now I ask one question. If we had these qualities, is there any scope for us to be unhappy at that point? We would have everything we want. But if I want respect from others, come to ISKCON, is guaranteed you will be disappointed. That's the nature. It's Srila Prabhupada's magic. And we are forced into this. But that's the beautiful position that when we lose this, the things that disturb us today will no longer disturb us. No longer disturb us. And so when will it happen? When we get taste attraction for the holy names. And when that attraction is going to come? When I chant and senses. And when I do, when attraction is there, what happens? Kirtaniya sadahari. Why? Because when there's attraction, how much time in the day is mother thinking of her newborn child? Is she having to do lots of work to do baby shmarnam? No. Because there is love. How much time the businessman is thinking about his business and money? Because there's attraction. So when we are attracted to the Supreme Lord, then this chanting becomes never ending. In fact, Rupa Goswami prays, right? What happens? One tongue is not enough to chant the holy names. Krishna, give me millions of tongues. How many of us have gone to Radha Kunj and prayed for millions of tongues? But this is what the devotee who has tasted the nectar of the holy names. One tongue is not sufficient because the attraction is so overwhelming, so overpowering. Just like one gulab jamun might not be enough, like this, one tongue is not sufficient. Prithum Maharaj prays, right? Give me millions of ears to hear your glories from the words of the pure devotee. So this is the level of attraction that happens. And so this happens when we are chanting purely, offensively, without any. So to solve our misfortune and to awaken our attraction, we work on these 10 offenses. And if we have been chanting for a long time and still the attraction is not yet there, then we know now where to look. So this is the first 3 verses. So we'll take maybe a few minutes for some Q&A before we break. Okay, so I think I'm reasonably on time. So any comments, even realizations would be great. Questions, discussion we can have. Yes.
So wonderful. And it's really nice because what you said early on, like you say this verses all the time, or at least even if not every day at some periodic frequency, that just forget how deep it is. I really like the point you mentioned, which I had not heard of this before, that all of our service that we do is to fuel our faith towards the holy name. I that was really powerful because I was the other way around, that when you chant, you ask that please engage me in your service. It's like Krishna gives you service then as a result of chanting. But this was such a powerful turn on that, which I think was very beautiful. So thank you for sharing. I never heard that before. That was very nice.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Prabhuji,
Yes.
you had mentioned about Sambandha Bhakti and associated deities, Radha Mohan, and Abhideya Bhakti being Radha Govind Devji. Is there a pastime or anything associated with that if you can provide more information on?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of history, of course, of each of those deities. So just to complete that, Radha Gopinath is our Prayojan deity. So, of course, these are all the deities from our 6 Goswamis who established this process. And each deity has many, many beautiful pastimes. Of course, Radha Madan Mohanji is now in Karoli. They moved from Vrindavan. And Sanatan Goswami has established that deity there. So why they are specifically Sambandhayan, Abhideyan, I am actually not so familiar with, but the pastimes are deities. But it's not relevant to this discussion, so I might not spend time there if it's okay.
Sure.
But I'm not exactly sure why they were each connected in that way. I have some speculation going in my mind, but I don't want to speak as I can't substantiate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you for such a nice presentation. I want to say, like, most of the time we stumble on humility. So that was a very good point on humility, like how we need to be more humble, not by just the word, but by our actions, and the point that we have to follow our guru's instructions, all the instructions. That was very profound because we trying to pick up, okay, this suits to my taste, this doesn't suit, so I will, differentiate. But that was really, really powerful to assimilate all the instructions and not be a nitpicker and just pick some for your own likings. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
I think the point tolerant, like we have to surrender unto Krishna's plan, tolerance. So I like that point.
Tolerance actually becomes easier when we connect it to it's Krishna's plan, right? Because when we're in the midst of something difficult, it's hard because we're confronting that circumstance. But if I remember, hey, this is Krishna's plan, it gives us a little bit of strength to tolerate that circumstance. So when I read this also, I really feel the connectivity that, okay, in that time of difficulty tolerating it, remember, hey, this is my Supreme Father's best plan for me. It must be good for me. Let me work through it with that lens. Okay, it gives us some strength to tolerate.
So
Thank
I
you.
have one more.
Yes.
So when the first word you mentioned Vidya Vadhu Jivan. So why the Vadhu word is there?
Why the Vadhu?
Yeah, Vidya Vadhu Jivan you mentioned, right?
Hmm?
The knowledge one.
Yeah, I'll go back to it so
Yeah.
we can see it. 1 second, I'm just
Can
gonna.
you see the fourth one? So
Vidya Vadhu.
Jivanam. So Vadhu means kind of a bride or something in Sanskrit as well as I think. The significance for the word Vidya.
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with what the actual word Vadhu is, so I can't comment on that.
Okay.
Yeah, Vidya is knowledge.
Knowledge.
Jivanam is life.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Question on no, the first thing was is you stressed a few times about pure chanting, offenseless chanting, but at least I personally find it very hard to chant offenselessly, right? And even if it is not the first 10 offenses, you can kind of do the last the appendix to the 10 offenses is the hardest, which is to be attentive while chanting. So how do we? It seems like the goal is very lofty that until I get to pure chanting, I cannot get the taste of chanting. But in order to get the taste of chanting, I need to chant. So how do we
Break that cycle.
break that, but also be a part of the cycle?
So one thing on attentive chanting, if I can just make a quick comment on that. So if we invited somebody to our house and then they knock on the door, we let them in, and then we disappear. And we just go. Would we consider that very considerate, respectful? So when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, we are inviting the Lord onto our tongue. So what is our responsibility? To be attentive. So if the attentiveness is not coming yet out of attraction, let it come out of sense of responsibility. So at least I can attempt, I can be responsible and put this away. I can do that. Silence it and do not disturb and put it away. That I can handle attentiveness, right? I can, take the, we become great left-handed cookers because we cook with the left hand and we chant with the right hand. So we can turn off the fire hand, step away. We're also very good left-handed drivers. So we'll not do that. At least those things we should start with. And what Krishna will do? Hey, my dear child is trying to be attentive by chanting. Let me help him. But we have to help ourselves first. We do those things. I'm worried if I give you a few more, you won't invite me back for the afternoon. But if we rise early in the morning and chant, regardless of how sleepy we are, whatever, there's a few principles. Krishna will see that effort and he can make the impossible possible. You are right. This is very lofty. It is beyond our reach. So we'll see in the 5th verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes an extremely important point. In the next 5 verses, we're going to pick out a few words that are most important. And he says this verse says, please pick me up. What does it mean? It's not in our hands. It is only by the mercy of Krishna it can happen. Just like a baby can only move from here to there by one way, mother picking and moving. We are in that same position. So this position of avoiding the offenses will come only when we are sincere to try to avoid them. But you are right, we'll never do it on our own Shakti. Only by the power. Now, let me ask the question. Can Gauranga Mahaprabhu rid us of all these 10 offenses? Does he have the potency to do it? But is that what we are praying for him to? Or are we praying for other things? So if we sincerely put our effort, Krishna will reciprocate that effort. Right? So even this taste of the holy names, as he said so sweetly, that it's like a cycle, right? So that's why, again, Krishna's system is so perfect. He says, you chant Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, the impetus to do whatever is external, right, is coming from Guru, from Sadhu, from Shastra. Why? Because the internal impetus is still not developed. So I was discussing this morning in another class that what is our greatest asset? Our vow to our spiritual master to chant the holy names. We treat it as a liability, right? We're fearful, oh, what if I can't do it? We get nervous about it. But actually, it's our life asset. Why? Because how many of us honestly would chant 16 rounds every day unless we made the vow? We wouldn't. At least I wouldn't. So that external impetus. But what is the maturation of that external impetus? If I stick to it and do it, even if I'm doing it only because I made a vow, is eventually that Vaidhi Sadhana, it'll mature into Raga Navasa. The impetus will become internal, that I want to do it. Right? So the process is set up that to reach these lofty positions, it happens by the process of still just keep chanting and keep working on it and keep trying. But if we are not trying, then why Krishna will try for us? So we have to, when we chant every morning these offenses, just meditate, okay, which of these 10 today would I like to avoid? Pick one. You can pick a different one every day even. I can't be attentive today, but I'm not going to underestimate the potency of these holy names. Okay, so start, right? Then we can increase. So make progress, sincerely desire, and let Krishna make it happen for us. Okay?
Prabhuji, one question.
Yes.
Prabhuji, you mentioned tolerance leads to compassion. Can you please elaborate on that, Prabhuji? What does it lead to compassion?
Yeah, because what is compassion? Compassion means that one has the inspiration to help somebody else who is suffering, right? So when someone comes and criticizes me and gives me some hard time, I have to tolerate, right? But the tolerance comes from the understanding that this person is acting this way, assuming I'm acting properly and not inspiring it. This person is acting this way out of their inertness. So what I should do? I can either respond and reciprocate, or I can pray for this person to Krishna. Krishna, please help them purify. Or I can try to engage them in devotional service in a way that, because my mood is not, I don't care what they did to me, that I'm trying to help them purify. So it invokes this mood of compassion for that person, right? Versus animosity. Our natural instinct is to become, inimical. We want to fight back. But the devotee doesn't feel that way. I was giving this example, I put this picture up of Haridas Thakur. He is being beaten in the marketplace, 22 marketplaces, over and over again. We might wonder, why Krishna didn't come. He sent Sudarshana Chakra. Chakra left his hand, and then it stopped. Why it stopped? Because Haridas Thakur, while he's being beaten, think about this, while he's being beaten, he is praying that let these people be forgiven, because they're only doing what their king ordered them. So because he is praying, Chakra stopped the order of Krishna and listened to the order of his devotee. Because Chakra knows who is more important to Krishna? No one than his devotees. So Haridas Thakur is having compassion while tolerating this beating. And so he is like the epitome of tolerance and humility. Why he's Namacharya? His humility, all the associates of Gauranga Mahaprabhu are enjoying prasadam in the garden. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally giving out sweet cakes and rasgulla. I promised lunch is coming. And dals, all Jagannath Prasad with his own hand. How many of us would like to be in that assembly, sit in that prasadam line? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was calling, Haridas, Haridas, come. He's calling him. And Haridas Thakur is just there, outside. And he's saying, I am not qualified to be in that assembly. He is not looking and saying why that person is there. I'm more senior to know why that person is there. That's what I would do. He is saying, no, I don't belong there. Extraordinary humility. Where that humility came from? Because he is Namacharya. He is the chanter of the holy names. When Advaita Acharya finished his Pinda ceremony, who he first offering to? Haridas. And what did Haridas Thakur say? Oh, thank you very much. No, your whole ceremony will be ruined. You cannot give to me. And Advaita Acharya Prabhu said, if I have any goodness from this ceremony, you will honor the first one. This is this humility that Haridas Thakur had. And how did Krishna reciprocate with him? At the end of his life, he personally carried him to the ocean, bathed him in the ocean, with his own hands dug his samadhi and placed him in samadhi. This is the love Krishna has for his devotees. And these qualities They come. What was Haridas Thakur's qualification? Attachment to chanting of the holy names. It's okay.
Can we break now? Time? Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Shastra Prabhupada ki
So actually, voice will rise for Aarti now, and then after Aarti, we'll honor Prasadam, and we'll try to get to the second session by 1 o'clock, if possible.